What's up, everybody? This is Anthony Mitchell here, host of the End Zone Club podcast, where, as always, we have conversations wrapped around things we know now we wish we knew when we were younger. Today I want to go in an opposite direction from what you're accustomed to seeing here at the program. Was blessed over the weekend to take my youngest son, our 10-year-old, to his first collegiate football game, which thankfully was an SEC game. It was LSU versus Ole Miss, which, just as a precipice, our 19-year-old works for Ole Miss. He's a journalist on the football team, and he gets a chance to write articles for the team. So if you can, check out Pierre Cummings. That's a shameless plug. But brothers were able to have good camaraderie as a father. It's awesome to see this kind of stuff going on. But we went to our first football game together. And I got a few notes that I noticed sitting on the 40-yard line watching the game. We're both rooting for LSU. We're both decked in the number 7. One of us for Jamar Chase, the other for Patrick Peterson. It's the perfect clash of young meets old. But we walked away having experienced a thriller game. But there were some things that stood out that, hey, I gotta talk about. Number one, of course, everybody's making a lot of to-do about the defensive unit. I will say very early on, i.e. the first play of the game, for somebody who played a little bit of football and is still around it in the coaching capacity, it was very apparent let's see how to word this. There was very apparent early on that the defensive unit is not very good. I kind of wrestled back and forth watching it up close, whether we were lacking the pieces to be good or were we not very well coached. And I have to start it here because as a coach and you're watching the game from a coaching perspective, your attention to detail is a little different because you're not just watching it from an entertaining value, right? I noticed pretty early on that we don't know how to wrap up. There were guys who were in position to make plays time and time and time again that were out of position, and it blew my mind. So is Matt House a good defensive coordinator? We'll probably get into that in a moment. But the first thing I have to highlight is how bad the tackling was. Tackling was atrocious. I got to shout out Major Burns because as a defensive back, seeing him making tackle after tackle after tackle, if you're looking at a stat sheet and you're seeing all of these tackles these guys in the defensive backfield is making, yes, it's good that he can tackle, but to support your defensive backs is not to put it on them as the last line of defense to make all of the tackles. There were a lot of guys in the front 7 that I just didn't feel like had nonstop motors and didn't fight through blocks, didn't fight through screens, didn't do the small things necessary to shorten the field for the defensive backs where they're not having to run, 7-10 yards from the line of scrimmage and even further to make tackles because they're closer, which for me would mean that if the front 7 were making tackles closer to the line of scrimmage, that the plays would be a little short, less yards. So I saw a lot of times where quarterback was stopped, or running back, Judkins, man, he ran like a train through us. But it wasn't because the assignments were bad. First of all, we couldn't tackle. Second of all, I didn't notice a whole lot of communication amongst our defensive unit. They weren't really talking to each other. So if maybe somebody bit on a play, the tight end is coming off the line and maybe a safety or cornerback or linebacker is coming up to get that assignment, sometimes the safeties would come with them and the whole backside of the field would be wide open. There's not a last line of defense because now they're playing out of position, and that happened time and time and time and time again. That's how they kept getting behind us, because there was nobody in position where they should have been. I do feel like we do have talent on the defensive side of the ball, but I don't think we have the talent level that most LSU fans are accustomed to. I just got to start again with the defensive backfield. Once upon a time, we had beasts that roamed in that backfield when we were known as DBU, when Corey Raymond was in the backfield. I said this from the beginning. Do not let Corey Raymond go. This is not a shot at Kerry Hughes, who I think is our defensive back coach, but this is not his assignment. We don't even have LSU level guys back there. And this is not this is, again, these guys are good, but they're not Grant Delpit. They're not the Stingleys. They're not the Tre'Davious Whites. They're not the Jalen Mills. You guys following where I'm going? It's not that level of guys. And then and what I mean by that also, these guys had talent, but they also had nonstop motor and heart. That was something else that stood out to me. Some of these guys do not give a lot of effort. I saw third play of the game. There was a defensive end that didn't even give a quarter. Third play already. He was dogging it at the line of scrimmage, wasn't giving a quarter of the effort he could have. So not only is your defensive backfield out of position a lot of times, not only are they outmatched, not only do we not have a dog and alpha out there in the back, your linebackers are often out of position as well. You don't have a Devin White back there. You don't. But that's okay if you got guys that you're coaching up to the level of standard of performance that you want them to perform at. Get your guys up to that level and get that out of them every week. I think Harold Perkins can be a dog every week. But you got to position him where he needs to be. And just rushing the passer all the time, I don't think is it. The guy's a natural athlete. Let him go out and eat. Figure that out. That also, the defensive line got zero pressure all night long. I don't want to really, I don't want to come across like I'm downing the players because I love our guys. I love that they have donned this uniform and that they are giving their all in practice. But I don't think Matt House. That's it. That's the rant. Jumping on the offensive side of the ball very quickly. I still don't think we have a dominant running game yet, but I think it's formidable, and I think it's going to get you 4-5 yards a pop. Our offensive line, I thought, was actually superb in pass protection for the most part, but we're lacking something in the running game. Just having some road haulers that are some pave graders, as we called it back in the day, that's able to get out in the open, push some guys out the way, and make some lanes open up for the running backs. Didn't really see a whole lot of that. But the one bonus I did see, how do I want to say this? Because I don't want to squat on our wide receivers, because our wide receivers are elite. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, they're elite. Kyron Lacy dropped some catchable balls. Come on, man. I need 20 push-ups out you, brother. You dropped some passes several times that you should have caught. But overall, our wide receiver unit is elite. But you guys, some of y'all have to eat crow for things you said about Jaden Daniels. I want to end on that note. Jaden is elite. Seeing him in person, on TV, I knew the boy could run, but seeing him in person, the boy is fast. Not only is he fast, he's got a phenomenal, tremendous attitude. You could see it, just the way he is with his players. And I think this is important to note, because when you're in dogfights like you have been already 5 games into the season, when the national pundits are talking about you guys so badly, when you have, when your team, right, is in a game where it's historic yardage that's put up on the, historic yardage that an offensive team has put up against your defense, and they're relying on you play after play after play. And they're relying on you play after play after play to get out and counteract what the offense has just done after you have given your all on the last play and ran and been hit. Man, he got clocked hard in the beginning of the game. The boy is elite. He should be in a Heisman contention. He should definitely be in that conversation. Unfortunately, because of the way it's a team game, because of the way the team is playing, it's unfortunate that probably a good statistical season will not gather the amount of steam that it should. I have been very vocal from the beginning. I do think the Brian Kelly hire was not going to look the way we wanted it to look. The guy, to be the kind of coach he is, 2 years in, the lack of attention to detail is alarming. I know they have said that he's a Nick Saban level coach, and I think he's a fine coach. But one of the takeaways I have personally gotten watching the way his teams are coached, I think coming from Notre Dame, I think there are weeks that you can take off and focus on maybe recruiting. Maybe you can focus on the alumni events. Maybe you can focus on school spirit awards and those sorts of things at other colleges. In the SEC, right? You have to bring it every single night. There is no off nights. There is no off days. There is not a weekend that you can pack it in. I don't care if you're playing Missouri. I don't care if you're playing Troy or Vanderbilt. You have got to bring it every day because you're fighting, first of all, against a media that is as fair weather as the sun outside. One minute it's raining, the next minute it's ready to snow. The next few weeks it's looking like cloudy days ahead. That's the kind of media we have. You have one bad performance, they will rag your recruits until they flip them. That's the kind of stuff we have. So if you don't have a consistent standard of performance, if it doesn't look like your game plan is superb, every week it'll show. And it has showed on multiple occasions that we don't come across like an X's and O's kind of team. It doesn't feel to me like we have people in booths and in places that are able to make necessary adjustments in game as they should be made. Coming out of the halftime, I was expecting any minute for us to start clamping down because I've seen this before. Even when we had Dave Aranda, right? Dave Aranda was a phenomenal defensive coach. But the way the game is played now with the spread offense, it is impossible to completely stop. But I would notice even Dave Aranda at halftime, he would make adjustments where you could start seeing maybe the defensive tackles or ends making stunts and a linebacker making a blitz to get to the quarterback. You would start noticing press coverages changing, zones changing, man-to-man changing, different alignments where, now this quarterback, you're first of all at the line of scrimmage, you're testing his moxie. Is he a quick processor? Are you overloading him? Are you making it hard? I didn't feel like we done that. If we're not making these necessary adjustments, if the line is doing the same rush every play, if our linebackers aren't playing with good depth and people are getting behind them and it's big yards, it's 3rd and 15, and they're basically throwing for 30 yards at will, what are we doing? What are we doing? I feel like a lot of it is coaching, but I feel like we're missing fundamentally some things we should have. So seeing my man, who's it, Pete Jenkins coming back to being an analyst, I just said this yesterday. We need to hire some analysts. We need some old school guys that can focus on some attention to detail kind of stuff, cleaning up things that of course you guys know. By the time you get in college, you should know how to tackle. It's that simple. It's that simple. By the time you get in college, you should know how to tackle. I don't know if we're not in the weight room. I don't know if our guys, especially defensive backs, are back there seeing these big running backs coming their way because the front seven is not taking on these tackles and they're making I can't even get it out. They're making business decisions in the backfield and thinking, I seen a guy, I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna get off, but I saw a guy slip down about 40 yards from the play. Basically, he stayed down. Running back runs right past him and basically scores. And I'm looking at the play unfolding well before it gets to there. I'm thinking, okay, this guy, I don't even want to call his number on the right side of the field, but I'm like, he's going to get up. He's going to make the play. Didn't make it. I just felt like the guys were tired. They were on the field too much. And you know what happens when you don't have good quality depth and these teams are coming at your throat. It wasn't a masterful performance by Lane Kiffin. Let's get that out the way. It was just, we were outmanned, we were outcoached, and at the end of the day, it's still go Tigers. I do think we're going to rebound. I do think we're going to build in competition till we play Alabama. I think just for whatever reason, Brian Kelly has always had his sights on Nick Saban because now he is coaching for legacy. I do think that is a game that he will get it up for. And I do think that we will come out on the victorious side. I think we match up good, especially offensively with Alabama, with the receivers we have, with the awesome quarterback we have. But man, we got some work to do, guys. But as always, go Tigers.